Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And Frank from Tested.
Frank, we are in, this is not your shop.
This is shop number 2. This is our second shop.
You got expansion?
Yes, we have another expansion pack on the shop, and this is the clean shop.
Oh.
There's no dust, there's no dirt, there's no painting. This is 3D printers, this is computers, this is some foam fabrication, but this is all the clean stuff.
Very cool. And today we're going to talk about 3D printers because this machine here, we first teased, you had it back at the RPF party.
Yes.
It's from 3DP, 3D platform, and as you guys can see, it's a massive 3D printer.
Yes, meter by half meter build volume.
That's an incredible
Awesome.
build volume.
Yes.
Holy smokes. Yeah, everyone always talks about when they get their first 3D printer, like building when they want to build costumes or props, they got to slice up their models. You don't have to do that anymore with something like this.
Well, you still have to know how to slice it up and how to orient it. This is not a whole lot different than any other 3D printer that's out there. It has the same nuances that any other 3D printer is going to have. It's just larger.
Right. So you always still have to worry about
bed leveling.
Okay.
You have to worry about your power, your ambient temperature. It's all the same things.
but you can also scale up your ideas.
Yes.
Right. So for example, you were showing me something like this. This is a single piece.
Yes.
That you printed. And I would never be able to print something like this at home on a home 3D printer.
Well, you'd have to print it in smaller sections and then put it together. This was just like kind of a quick prototype run for something we were building for our buddies at Mechanics Wear.
So how happy are you printing something this big, and how big of a time commitment is it?
Well, surprisingly, when we did print the full-size one, it was only about 3 days.
Only 3 days. I guess people run printers overnight, and we were talking about scaling it up.
Yeah.
So this gantry system has to move pretty quickly then.
It can move really fast. Like you could change the layer height and all kinds of the settings to make this thing like really spit out filament. Or you could slow it down and get some nicer resolution. It's like every other printer. You just got to tweak with it. You got to tell it what you want it to do. You want it to move real fast, resolution is going to drop. You want it to be real nice resolution, it's going to move a little slower.
And this is PLA?
Yes. I've almost only been playing with PLA just because it's kind of easy.
Right. So something like this is printed out. Do you then do a finish pass on this, or do you print out your finished products?
Well, when we did the final one of this, we ended up just coating it with XTC, the smooth-on.
Yeah.
It's like an epoxy, and then painting it, and then it was done. Like we really didn't have to do anything else beyond that. So that was really nice. It didn't need to be a super high fidelity, high detailed like little model. Nothing was like super polished and fine, smooth surfaces and stuff like that. So it was easy.
And something like this is an example of a really big volume, really pretty high Z height model. But because your bed is also a meter by a meter, you can also print things that are just big surface area that don't necessarily have to be big volume. For example, what's that you have on the bed right there?
These are the pieces from the Lich King sword that we did for Blizzard a couple months ago. So this is the sword. We printed the blade all in one, and then they just get put together.
God.
This one has a coat of XTC on it, and then this one has a coat of XTC and then primer. So you could see it's not a ton of cleanup that's needed even on this.
But it's like, again, there's no way that you would be able to print this on a home printer.
You'd have to print it in a bunch of sections.
And this is so nice that it's all one piece. Did you have any warping problems with this?
No, there was a little bit of a learning curve in keeping the ambient temperature, kind of walling it off from any breezes and adjusting the bed temperature and stuff like that. But as long as you get the bed level across that whole surface, there wasn't really any warping at all.
And that big piece I showed earlier, that's got to be more than your typical 1 kilogram. Like I use 1 kilogram spools at home.
Yeah.
So what are you printing with?
Well, luckily places like Mad Hackers have these bigger, like 10-pound spools. So the reason that one didn't finish all the way up at the top is because we didn't start with a brand new spool.
Spool management becomes a big thing. If you're printing for like 3 to 5 days, but you can start and stop and
you can. Yeah, we have another mold over there that we were getting to a point and we were like, wait, the spool's almost done. So we changed the spool and finished it out with another color, and so you could see that.
That is so cool. Now, we buried the lead a little bit because we're actually talking not just about printing big things, but new things that you've been printing. And like this is a mold that you would typically make. This is a fiberglass mold. You sculpt something.
Do a sculpture, do a fiberglass mold, then you can do castings out of that.
Right, we've talked about that, and it's a tried and true process. But with new technologies, you can also think of things differently. Like when I think of you printing out a big form, and then you'd then put that in a silicone mold, again, build up fiberglass, or you've now also been printing molds?
The molds, yes. Back at Monsterpalooza, I was talking to Landon Muir, who does Hyperflesh, all those like cool, like kind of hyper-realistic masks of like celebrities and stuff like that. And I found out that he 3D sculpts his masks and then prints the molds.
Right, so you use ZBrush.
Yeah.
You have your positive, but because it's just a digital file, you can do a couple settings, invert that, and you get everything but that.
Yeah,
and that is a mold.
It's like a Boolean operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you get something like, well, for example, this is a two-part mold.
Yes.
And it has a piece on the inside that ends up being, well, a familiar thing for test viewers. It's a shoe from maybe a spacesuit, the Martian spacesuit. Yeah, and you have your registration built in.
Yes.
Very cool. Like that saves you a lot of hassle. How good of a mold is this compared to like a silicone mold?
Well, we haven't cast parts out of this yet. I have cast parts out of 3D printed molds before, and they work fine. Like for this, I'm going to end up hitting it with some catalyzed primer before I use it, and then I'm going to probably wax it, like wax the hell out of it.
So it's going to
release,
smooth it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then that should be fine. We're going to rotocast some rubber in it for the soles of the shoes.
Got it. Because right. If you're making a silicone mold, you can kind of put any kind of material you want. It won't stick to the silicone.
Yeah.
But because this is just PLA plastic, you can put silicone in this.
Yeah.
That'll be fine. But if you do want urethanes, then you need to coat it. And
yeah, you have to put a release on there. So we're going to seal it up really nice. We're going to put a good release on there, and then hopefully these things will work. I mean, like I said, we haven't tried them yet.
Now, like the same lessons apply when using this and printing this at this size as you would printing small size. So, how happy are you with like the fine details here?
Well, whenever you're dealing with the Z height, you're going to end up getting this like topography that the resolution just isn't as good in the Z as it is in the X and the Y.
Right.
So this was printed flat on the bed like this, and the detailed parts down on the bottom of the shoe, which are kind of the fun details, aren't as good as I wanted them to be. So we've been goofing around with orienting the molds in different positions. We thought about doing it this way, but then the whole heel and the toe are going to be problems, and then we have to have support all the way through it. So we ended up printing another one.
I'll grab this.
And these parts we printed at an angle.
Right.
So that way we kind of had the best of both worlds, and the problem-ish areas are just in the bottom of the toes and like just a couple little spots in here. So
but the place where you care about the details, specifically this logo in the center, that's going to be clean. I mean, you're still going to be doing cleanup on whatever you cast out of it, but again, you're being more efficient about how you take advantage of a 3D model or and not having to create the positive, then the negative. You're getting just the negative.
Yeah, well, it's learning how to set things up to optimize it for what you want it to be.
Very, very cool. Well, I want to take a look at this big face mold because this idea of printing the molds, you said it was inspired by Landon Muir's Monsterpalooza mass, and this is a massive 3D printed mold.
Yeah.
Two colors because
we were getting low on the gray. We stopped it, restarted it with the red because we didn't have another gray spool at the time.
And that was just right on there. It wasn't two separate printed pieces and then glued together.
Yeah, just went right in from one to the other.
Are you guys ready for this? Look at that. That's a face right there. You can immediately recognize that as a face. You're negative. And did this require any cleanup on the inside here?
No, we haven't done any cleanup on this. Eddie, that works for me, Eddie Haleko, he ZBrushed this, and then we printed this as kind of an experiment. Wow. But then Eddie also cast a silicone piece out of this mold.
All right, and that is this guy. Whoa.
Yeah, so what Eddie did is he cast all these layers of all these different colors on here are different layers of silicone. So you could put in the fleshy bits and then some reds and then some browns and blues, and then once you have this, then you do a light wash of paint and it'll tie everything together. So it's kind of intrinsically painting things. So that's kind of what we're experimenting with, is intrinsically painting things.
I mean, I get it that if you look really up close to this, you can see in the silicone, some of the print lines.
That's the same thing with Landon's.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're wearing this and you're walking down the street, that looks perfect.
Yeah.
And because it's just a 3D model, you can do whatever variations.
Yep.
And this is just silicone. You're saving a lot of material. It's material one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's material and it's time, but this is all being done for experimentation right now. We're just, trying to learn the ins and outs of all of this stuff so that as, other projects come up and these problems arise, we're like, we've already figured that out.
Right.
Like, we want to figure it out now when we don't have that project so that when the project comes up.
Yeah, we get so many questions out there from people wondering, what's the application for 3D printing at scale?
Yeah.
Is it just printing Yoda heads or trinkets at home? But you're running an effect shop, and this is how you and other companies would create swords and masks for productions.
Yep.
That's so cool. You've been happy with this, the 3D?
Yeah, no, this thing's awesome. We've been running it a lot lately. Like I just ran this. It's another negative mold like this, but I ran it all in white PLA so I could see the layers.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to do another video on doing that intrinsic paint job.
Awesome. You're making great use of the annex already. This is very cool. Thanks for having us here. We'll have more visits to Frank's shop, of course, where we're going to go more in-depth with these processes. You can find, of course, projects on tested.com with This Old Effect Shop, a show that Frank and I do where we do how-tos. But thanks for watching. Like this video, and we'll see you next time.